Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the third in our brown bag series, Professionalism in Healthcare. If this is your first time attending this, welcome. We're so glad you could be here. My name is Teresa Novakovich, and I'm a health educator for South Central Alaska Area Health Education Center. And we are a department of the Alaska Primary Care Association and Workforce Development. So in coordination with the APCA, we are excited to bring these series to you over the next few weeks. Today's topic is professionalism and your personal life. So we're going to dive into how things that happen at home and in our personal life can affect our professional life, both positively and negatively, and how we can hopefully have that more positive than negative. Before we get into that, I just wanted to bring up the schedule and let you know the topics that are coming up. So we are, as I said, on the third session here, Professionalism and Personal Life. Coming up on Wednesday is your personal COVID coaching session with Sevilla Love. That's going to be excellent. We're going to be talking about taking care of ourselves, self-care, and dealing with stress and anxiety during this unprecedented time. And then on Friday, cultural competency. So look forward to those coming up in the next few days. So professionalism and your personal life. Good personal skills or the ability to manage aspects of your life outside of work free you to concentrate on your job and on your career. Having good relationships, a good support system, and having things in a way that you can manage outside of work makes work so much easier for you and allows you to be much more professional when you're at work, when you don't have to worry about those personal things going on. Of course, we all have challenges and life changes, and so being able to handle them effectively with as least disruption to our life is what we're striving for, not to eliminate them, because that's part of life and part of our experiences. But handling them, having the resources to handle them and continue to be a good employee, taking off time as necessary, but still being there and still being able to deliver and contribute to your workplace. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our personal image. I'd like you to think of someone that you admire, who you would say has a good personal image. Just think about that person for a few minutes and then think about what it is about them that makes that image so positive. Is it the way they look? Is it the way they conduct themselves? Is it their honesty? Is it their integrity? Our personal image can say so much about us. And unfortunately, we're in a world where we get judged almost immediately when we see somebody. People are making assumptions and judgments about us from what they see. Those may be true or may not, but we want to be in a position where we're putting forth the best image that we can. So those judgments will be positive and elicit confidence in us as healthcare workers. Good, bad, or otherwise, we represent our employer. Wherever we are on the job, after work, on the weekends, most of us live in communities that are so small that everybody knows who we work for, and our appearance, our attitudes, our behaviors can affect our company's image, either positively or negatively. Especially frontline workers, employees who have the most frequent contact with a company's customers, have a strong impact on the image of the company. So it's advisable to always use discretion in what you do and what you say, to not shed or make people think poorly of your employer because of your actions. Personal image is also our appearance and grooming. Personal hygiene is important. We might go to a clinic and see a physician. They might be the best physician, in the state of Alaska. But if their fingernails are dirty and they have bad breath and their hair is dirty and greasy, we could have a negative experience with them just because of their appearance. And so we don't ever want to give customers, clients, patients any reason to distrust us or not think that we are very capable in our positions. So always having that, the utmost in personal hygiene, taking care of ourselves is part of addressing our personal image and having it very positive. Dress code standards is another part of our professional image. A lot of us in the medical field are asked to wear scrubs. Scrubs are awesome. I love them because I don't have to think about what I'm going to wear that day. I have this uniform. It creates a sense of trust among patients, a uniform look. It identifies us as medical professionals, comfortable, convenient, and they're made to throw in the wash on hot, dry on high, to keep them clean and sanitary. So if that is something that you have been asked to wear in your job, that's awesome. Wear it, keep them clean and looking great. Some jobs, you don't have to wear scrubs, you don't have a uniform, and so we want to make good choices with our appearance and our clothing choices. Most companies will have a dress code standard that will outline what is appropriate for work and what is not appropriate for work. I've put up just a couple of, well, actually quite a few suggestions, general dress code standards that we would encourage everybody to follow. Have your clothes clean, pressed, fit properly. A lot of these will fit under the umbrella of you don't want your clothes talking louder than you do. So we want to have our patients and our clients look at us and be able to communicate with us without being distracted by what we're wearing or how we look or how we smell. A lot of perfume, and that's pretty well known in the medical field, can cause a lot of problems with patients and other people with allergies. So we want our clothing to be something that doesn't stand out and cause people to wonder, what is she wearing that for, or why is he wearing that, or that's very distracting. Different employers have different standards as far as piercing and tattoos. I know a lot of the hospitals ask that large tattoos be covered up. If you're applying for a job, if you're in the position where you're looking for a job, I would encourage you to err on the side of being conservative when it comes to dress standards. The employer might be absolutely fine with piercings and tattoos, or they might not be. And so if you cover them up during an interview, that's the best course, because you don't want to give them a reason to exclude you from the job. And then once you find out what the dress code standards are and find out what the culture is, you may be able to change that. Some employers I know here in Anchorage have policies against unnatural hair color, and that doesn't mean if you color your hair that's against the dress code. That means colors that are not naturally found in hair, such as pink and purple. So just getting to know your employer, doing some research, and making sure that you abide by those dress code standards. Some other things that play into our professional life are our personal habits. There are things that we can do and not even be aware that we're doing that can be annoying to others. Just being self-aware and sensitive to those things. Anything that is making noise, popping gum, popping your knuckles can be annoying to other people. One of my personal pet peeves is making a mess in the break room and not cleaning it up. I've done other people's dishes many times in our break room, and I find it really frustrating. A lot of times you'll see a sign in there, you know, your mother doesn't work here, so please clean up after yourself. So be that considerate person that takes care of their own messes and is considerate of other people. Turning up your radio really loud, forwarding chain mail to other employees, making a lot of personal calls or text during work can be personal habits that reflect on your professionalism. So I'd encourage you to avoid those. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about language and grammar. The way we talk at home or with our friends might not be appropriate at work. Calling people by nicknames or calling them honey or sweetie or dear is not professional. And so we want to keep our language and grammar very professional when we are at work. I've gathered a few common mistakes, grammar and language mistakes that I hear all the time that I just wanted to briefly go over. So these are not words, but we hear them all the time. Irregardless, anyways, seent, unthaw, brang or brung. So I don't know where the ear in irregardless came from, but that's not a word. You should use regardless, not irregardless. So regardless of what they did, I decided to go ahead with my plans, is how you'd use that in a sentence. Anyways, just take off the S. There is no S needed. So take off the S anyways. Seent, people use that as a past tense of see, and it should be saw. I saw something, not I seen it. Unthaw, I have a lot of people just their mind blown by realizing this isn't a word. So you freeze something or you thaw something, they're opposites. So unthaw, if you think about it technically, means to freeze something. So not a word. It's either frozen or you thaw it, bring it to room temperature. And brang or brung are the past tense of bring. So you would use brought. I brought something, not I brang it, not I brung it. So hopefully we're all good on those words. Another one that I see all the time is the apostrophe S used improperly. I see this in marketing materials, I see it in advertising, and so just wanted to briefly go over that. So apostrophe S is used to show possession, show that something belongs to somebody. So I love David's car. It's a great example of that. We're using the apostrophe S to show that that car belongs to David. Another one, Sharon's job pays really well. Okay, the apostrophe S is showing that it's Sharon's job. She's showing ownership of that. So this is what I see sometimes. We picked 23 apples from the ground with an apostrophe S. So we're not showing the apples are owning anything or showing possession of anything. We're just trying to say that there's more than one apple. We're using it as plural. So we would not use apostrophe S in that situation. Instead, we would use just S. We picked 23 apples from the ground. Right, there's apostrophe S. One more, when we're writing numbers, so this is in emails or correspondence. If you are writing the number 1 through 10, you would spell it out with letters. Example of this, Jenny will be 7 next week. We will spell that out, S-E-V-E-N. 11 and above, you would actually write the numbers. So here's an example. Can you believe they have 13 dogs? That's appropriate to use the numbers in 11 or above. And then the one that gets so many of us all the time are homophones. Homophones are words that are spelled differently, but pronounced the same way. Like on our little slide there, whether or weather. Which way do we spell it? There's a whether when you're trying to decide something, or there's the weather, is it sunny outside or rainy? Lots of homophones. Obviously, when you're speaking, there's not a problem because they're all they're pronounced the same, even though they may be spelled differently. But in our written correspondence, make sure that you're getting the right spelling of words that have multiple spellings and different meanings. So I have a quiz for you, and this just is for fun. It's completely anonymous, but I'm going to have you take a homophone quiz to see if you can identify the correct word that fits in the sentence. So let me pull that up really quick. And this should pop up on your screen. And go ahead and take that test, and I'll share the results with you. Let's see how good we do with homophones. Dawn, I want you to know that I saw your question there, and I would like to confirm that when I have smaller numbers and larger numbers, like under 10, I do spell them out. And then if there's a larger number in the same sentence, I use numbers. But I want to confirm that. So let me confirm that, and I will send you an email after our class is over. So that's a really good question. Okay, 72% of you have submitted your tests, your quizzes. Let's give you a couple more seconds to see if anybody else is still working on that. Okay, 84% of you. Let's give about 30 more seconds. If you haven't finished, if you could, that would be great. Sarah, thank you for your input on our numbers. That's what my understanding is also, that the numbers are for 11 and higher, writing out the numbers as words for 1 to 10. Okay, I'm going to close this test now. And let's share the results here. Okay. Hopefully you should be seeing that. Can somebody confirm yes? You see it. Thank you, Mari. Okay. So on our homophones, the spoiled food didn't seem to, the correct answer, affect, A-F-F-E-C-T. So affect is a verb. It does something. Effect with the E is the result of that. So 74% answered 1 correctly, 74% answered number 2 correctly. We looked great on our 2 2s and 2s, 94%, 97, and we all knew this one. Number 5, 2 is going to the grocery store, TO. Okay. 100%, we know our yours. YOU apostrophe RE is just missing that word right now, for you are. So if you can say you are in a sentence, you can abbreviate it correctly with YOU apostrophe RE. We got our theirs. THERE is a place. Please put your backpack over there, THERE. THEIR is possessive. It's showing that something belongs to somebody. So put the grocery in their car, THEIR. And then the contraction, THEY apostrophe RE, that's a contraction for they are. So if you can say they are, that would be the correct spelling. Insure, assure, and ensure. These are very subtle differences that can be really confusing. So the assure with the A means that you are promising something. You're putting confidence that this is going to happen. I assure you that the report will be ready by 4 p.m. So that's with the A. The ensure is like, I'm going to make sure this gets done. This isn't a promise like the assure that starts with an A, but I'm going to assure that my child finishes his dinner before he goes out to play. Make sure this happens. And then the insure with the I is insurance, like insurance on our car. I'm going to insure my car. I'm going to insure my house. I'm going to insure my wedding ring against theft. All right. Thank you, everybody, for taking that quiz with me. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is time management. Time management can be difficult for even the most organized people. Having a calendar nowadays or an appointment book or a day planner is critical to stay on top of your commitments and obligations. Make a list of the things that you need to get done. Prioritize that list with the things that need to get done that day at the top. One problem that some people experience is that they have a list of things that they need to get done at work, and they start working on things that don't need to be done that day or are not a priority, while setting aside things that are critical and that are important. So I know I'm guilty of this when I'm at home. If there's a chore around the house that I don't want to do, I'll find all sorts of other things that I can do instead. But the thing is, when we put off the important things, we're actually just making more anxiety for ourselves. That last bullet point there, don't procrastinate. If you're going to do it, just do it. Drop the drama. So we can bite the bullet, get that hard thing done that's important, that needs to be done today, or we can put it off and in the back of our mind have that anxiety. I need to get to this. I need to get to this. Oh, I'm going to be in trouble if I don't get this done. And so that just turns our little molehill of a task into a mountain the longer we put it off. So make it easy on yourself and get your priorities. I apologize. I just realized you can't see my page. Are you seeing my time management page now? All right, sorry about that. Thank you, Dawn. So that last bullet point there is what I was referring to. If you're going to do something, do it and drop the drama and make it easier on yourself. It's important for our employers to know that they can count on us to get those critical things done, those tasks done, and be able to prioritize in a way that we stay on top of work and put off those things that are optional or not necessary right now in favor of the things that have to be done. Another topic in our personal life that can really affect our professional life is our financial management. Effective personal management, financial skills can help you pay your bills on time, avoid financial problems that can negatively impact your professional as well as your personal life. It's so hard to concentrate at work when you're worried about your finances, worried about making rent, paying your utilities, and having that stress gone will make it so much easier to be a good employee. I used to think that budget was a dirty word, and I didn't like that. The idea of somebody telling me where my money was going to go and what I had to do with it. And that's what I felt like a budget was. And then I had a paradigm shift that a budget was not somebody telling me what I could do or couldn't do with my money, but a budget was me deciding what I wanted to do with my money. I had control over that. And doing things intentionally instead of just going through the month wondering where did all of the money go. So a budget is deciding where you want your money to go, deciding what your priorities are, and making a plan to fulfill those priorities. Then you track your spending and you can evaluate and adjust that. And just know that you are in control of that and you get to decide what your priorities are. If you want to save for a vacation and you have the ability to pay your necessary expenses and save some for a vacation, you get to do that. You get to choose that. If you want to spend $100 a month on video games and you have the ability to do that, you get to choose that. It's just being intentional with your money is what I want to promote. So here's an example. Let's say we have a young man named Grant. He's 29 years old. He's single and he shares an apartment with his buddy Tyler. Grant and Tyler split rent and utility expenses. Grant doesn't have any savings at all and wants to build a $1,000 emergency fund. He owes $6,000 on his car. I see some chat coming in. Thank you for all those suggestions. We'll look at those in just a minute. He owes $6,000 on his car and wants to pay it off early. So using this information, I want us to think about a realistic budget for Grant. So as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, he takes home $1,600 a month. His fixed expenses, and these are the expenses that are pretty much the same every month. He knows what they're going to be approximately. They add up to $1,155. And then in that blue box are variable expenses. These are expenses that are not always the same every month. Sometimes he spends a little more, sometimes he spends a little less, and he has a little bit of control over these expenses. So that's food, clothing, entertainment, and miscellaneous. So here's what is referred to as a zero-based budget for a grant. So $0 based means that he is going to make a plan for every penny. He's going to decide for himself and be intentional where his money is going to go. So up there at the top, we've got income as A, $1,600. We add up those fixed expenses. He has $1,155 left over. We bring that to the top of this second column, I'm sorry, the difference between the 1,600 and the 1,155, which is 455. And then we decide, our grant gets to decide how much he wants to spend that month on food, clothing, entertainment, and miscellaneous. If he doesn't spend all of that $455, he'll have some left over under D, and he can decide what he wants to do with that money. He said he wanted to save $1,000 in an emergency fund, so he could put some of that leftover money to that. He could also pay extra on his car loan. But in a zero-based budget, he would decide where that would all go, and at the end, his leftover would be zero. So this is something that I use, and it really has been helpful to me. Here's an example of a possible budget for grant. So he estimates that he's going to spend $200 on food, $50 on clothing, $50 on entertainment, $45 on miscellaneous, for a total of $345, leaving him $100 left over. And he decides that he's going to split that and put $50 of that in savings towards his emergency fund, and then pay an extra $50 on his car loan. So this is how he can fulfill those financial priorities that he has. So I'd like to ask you a question, just looking at this budget here. If Grant decided that he wanted to be able to save more towards his emergency fund, can you see places in his budget where he might be able to spend less, or changes that he could make to have more money available for his financial goals? If you have any suggestions on looking at that, if you just put them in the chat box. You see anywhere where he could change or save money? Entertainment, says Mary Lou. Okay. So maybe he is spending a lot of money now going out, and he could invite friends over to his place to play games, cut down on food, drop the Xbox Live, lower the internet, maybe check his insurance and see if he can get a plan, reduced internet. Yeah, great ideas. It's so interesting to me that once you have a goal, expenses that you thought you couldn't reduce, all of a sudden you get really creative. And you think, you know, I would rather spend that money on my goal of saving for an emergency fund or buying a new car or whatever it is. And I'll cut back on my entertainment, or I don't need that Xbox Live. Suzanne says use public transportation, another one. Yeah. Lower gas by only driving when needed or carpooling. Another option is some people like to get a second job when they get really excited about a savings goal. And so that's an option too. We can either increase our income or decrease our expenses. So thank you, everybody. Great ideas there. All right. And then something that can really affect our professional life at work is stress. And man, we are feeling it lately, aren't we? Healthcare is a stressful job anyway, but when you're facing a pandemic, the possibility of getting laid off, of being furloughed, it can add up. Stress can absolutely make you sick. Our mental health and our physical health and emotional health are intertwined, and it can affect our ability to do our job. We're going to get into this a little more in depth on Wednesday with Sevilla's presentation, but I just would like to encourage you to Think about good stress management techniques now more than ever. Balancing our recreation and rest time with our work time. Hobbies can be a great source of stress reduction and self-care. Sports, getting plenty of sleep, exercising, eating right, and using conflict resolution skills and not letting anxiety and stress and anger build up inside of you. So don't forget to take care of yourself, take care of your stress so you can give your very best when you're at work. Okay, the last topic I want to talk about is managing change. You have heard that the only thing that is constant is change, and boy, isn't that the truth. No more evident than right now in our current conditions. Things are changing. If you have adaptive skills, you'll be better prepared for the changes that life will send your way. We need to be able to embrace change and even lead change sometimes. I have been so impressed with the businesses and organizations that I have seen change to this current pandemic, to change their services, change their products, to be relevant to what's going on right now. One of the amazing ones, Ford and GM have changed their automobile factories into making ventilators. Yeah, what an amazing idea that was, and what an incredible change it is for their workers. But this pandemic came up and they couldn't continue to do what they were doing right now, and so they changed their business model to provide a product that is needed. Back in 1989, some of you might remember this. There was a book called Who Moved My Cheese? It became a #1 New York Times business bestseller for over 20 weeks, sold over 23 million copies worldwide. And it talks in a fable about adapting to change. So I'm going to just show you a quick summary of what the fable was about and how we can relate that to our lives right now in this short video. So, whoops. Just a moment here. Looks like my video is having a hard time loading.
We live in...
Let me see if I can pull it up on another screen here for you.
Who Moved My Cheese is a fable about 4 characters who live in a maze and they all love cheese. When the cheese disappears, Scurry and Sniff enthusiastically head out into the maze to find new cheese. On the other hand, Hem and Haw feel betrayed and complain. They waste their time and energy hoping the old cheese will return. Haw realizes the old cheese won't return, so he sets out into the maze in search for new cheese. He writes what he learns on the walls, hoping that Hem will follow him. Eventually, he discovers new cheese and sees that Scurry and Sniff were already there. Cheese is a metaphor for what you want to have in life. It could be a good job, loving relationship, money, or health. The very core message of the book is this: things constantly change, so we must adapt. The quicker we adapt to change, the more satisfied we'll be. With that said, let's cover the key lessons by looking at a real-life scenario. Tim was an author and sold books on Amazon. He got paid $5 every time someone bought his book. This was his cheese. He loved his cheese. But recently, Amazon made a change to their way of paying authors. They introduced a new program called Kindle Unlimited, where customers could download his book for free. The catch is that he only got paid for the amount of pages that customers read. He didn't like this. His sales were dropping. He got angry at Amazon for taking his cheese. He spent weeks sending nasty emails to Amazon about why they should give his cheese back and complaining to his friends. And then there was Dave. He was an author as well. Instead of complaining, Dave sought out new cheese. This brings us to lesson 1. Change happens. They keep moving the cheese. Dave accepted that change is inevitable. Amazon is constantly updating their business systems to meet the demands of their customers. Lesson 2. Anticipate change. Get ready for the cheese to move. Dave expected things to change, so he was not surprised when Amazon changed their payment system. Lesson 3. Monitor change. Smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old. Dave was able to anticipate change because he kept up with the latest news about Amazon. He talked with other authors and paid attention to the frequent emails Amazon sent him. Lesson 4. Adapt to change quickly. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you can enjoy new cheese. Dave knew that hanging around and complaining would not change Amazon's payment system, so instead he quickly adapted to the change. Lesson 5. Change. Move with the cheese. To adapt to the change, Dave thought of ways to boost his sales with the new payment system. Through brainstorming and creative thinking, he was able to come up with several techniques that would encourage the reader to read more pages in his books. One technique was to combine books that weren't selling into one that was. That way, the reader was likely to read everything. As a result, his sales began increasing again. Lesson 6. Enjoy change. Savor the adventure and enjoy the taste of new cheese. Dave was happy that his work paid off. His success didn't end there. He created an online course to teach people how they could adapt to Amazon's new payment system, and it sold like hotcakes.
Okay, that one's still loading.
Vegan's healthy. Or vegetarian's healthy. French fries and beer are vegan. So you tell me. But seriously, the easy.
Oh goodness, I'm going to get through one of these without technical difficulties one of these days, I promise. So, do you have any comments or thoughts about that video, about the benefits of adapting to change versus pushing back and fighting that? Oh, sorry, Trina. Trina didn't hear the sound there. I want to let you know that in the materials section, should be on the right-hand side of your screen. There's a link to this video, and there's also some other handouts. There is a budget template on doing a zero-based budget, if that's something you're interested in. And there's some grammar, punctuation worksheet, not worksheets, but reference sheets that are helpful to have. So Lonnie says the way less stress if we can expect change and adapt it. Absolutely. Diana, I'm always amazed on how much energy people put towards fighting change instead of learning about it and going with the change. Isn't that true? Yeah, I think all of us have been in situations where there's been a big change and there are people that are angry about it and they fight about it. And increase their own stress and anxiety, and others who say, okay, this is the change. How are we going to make this work? How are we going to go forward from here? And save themselves a lot of hard work and anxiety and stress. So thank you for your comments. All right. And again, this is the, isn't this the time of the most change that I've ever seen in my lifetime with our current situation. We can't do business the way we've always done business, and we've got to come up with creative new ways to do that. And we can sit back and be angry about what's going on, or we can figure out how to adapt to it and change our services and our products so we can continue to be successful. Sierra, I struggle with this often. My job is essentially to change the workflows when it makes more sense to the overall vision. I try to get people involved in the decision for change to get them excited about it, but it is usually a negative response. Sierra, that's a tough position to be in, but I think the key is what you said, is to get people involved. When you're making a change that involves people getting their input and having them feel like they have part of an ownership of what's going to happen going forward, usually leads to more buy-in. And then honestly and sincerely saying, you know, asking for suggestions and asking for questions and how could we make this better? So you're doing the right stuff there. Cindy says, when stressful situations arise, it can be helpful to think about a time when we've had to adapt in the past and the positive impact it had on your life in the end. Thank you, Sydney. I think we can all think about experiences that we didn't want, that turned out to be really great. We just had blinders on and couldn't see the end at the time. So that's a great way to handle change. Thank you. All right, well, that is the end of today's session, Professionalism in our Personal Life. Again, you have access to materials and handouts there in the materials section. Thank you for joining us today. And on Wednesday, please come back. We'd love to have you here. We're going to be talking about your personal COVID coaching session with Sevilla Love. If you have any questions for me, I will stay on and go ahead and put those in the chat box. Thank you, everybody. Well, the materials come with the video link email. Yes, they should, Sierra. Please let me know if they don't, and I'll get those to you. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Diana. Thank you, Corrine, Sierra. Thanks, Kayla. Thank you, Trina. Thanks, Mary Lou. Oh, Jenna, what a great point. Jenna says, I believe that it's also important to have a point of stability to help offset the turbulence of change. Absolutely. If we are fortunate enough to have a stable home life, it can make such the difference when things outside of us, you know, in our community and in our country are changing and turbulent. So having a social network of people who can be that stability for you. Thank you, Lonnie.